Hello, I'm Michael Brooke, and I've been writing and generally enthusing about Polish cinema for most of my adult life. And I'm here to tell you about Watermans' upcoming cinema screening of Jan Komasa's Oscar-nominated film Corpus Cristi and its accompanying online discussion, which I'll be hosting. And with this film, there's a huge amount to talk about. Now, when you ask the average film buff to name Polish filmmakers, in my experience, they'll generally come up with some big 20th century names like Krzysztof Kieślowski or Andrzej Wajda. At least those two worked mostly in Poland, but I'm just as likely to hear names like Roman Polanski, Walerian Borowczyk, Jerzy Skolimowski and Andrzej Żuławski, who mostly worked abroad. But if you ask them to name a contemporary Polish director, pretty much the only name I hear with any regularity is Paweł Pawlikowski, who made Ida and Cold War. But he's also been around a surprisingly long time. He made his first films in the 1980s. So what I'm going to be doing here is introducing films by much younger filmmakers who were barely out of their teens when the new millennium ticked over and who've been building up impressively distinctive bodies of work firmly within the framework of commercial Polish cinema. In other words, the original 1950s French definition of a cinematic auteur, a term which was originally applied to directors of unusual interest working within the Hollywood mainstream. And in terms of contemporary Polish cinema, you'll find few better current examples than Jan Komasa. He's not yet 40, he was born in 1981, but he's already made 4 remarkable features, all of which I can thoroughly recommend, not just for their individual qualities, but also for the consistency of their vision in general and their focus on the troubled lives of young people in particular. His first and fourth films, The Suicide Room from 2011 and The Hater, which had its world premiere only a few months ago, both cast a deeply pessimistic eye on the dangers of social media, whether used as a retreat from the real world in The Suicide Room or used to manipulate real-world events in The Hater. And you could probably tell just from those titles the general line that Komasa takes. His second feature, Warsaw 44 from 2014, was a big-budget reconstruction of the famously doomed attempt by the Polish Home Army to defeat the occupying Germans before the Soviet forces arrived. And in picking this subject matter, Komasa was boldly parking his tanks on the lawn of one of Polish cinema's supreme masterpieces, Andrzej Wajda's own second feature, Kanal. And then, Komasa's third feature, Corpus Cristi, which premiered last year, is the most acclaimed of the lot. It even got an Oscar nomination for the category now known as Best International Film, and there's no shame in losing to Parasite. So let's have a look at the trailer.
Kiedy Bóg do nas mówi, czasami zdarza mi się popełnić jakiś grzech, jakieś zło. Czasami myślimy, że niemożliwe, żeby Bóg tak chciał.
W imię Ojca i Syna i Ducha Świętego. Amen. O której masz się stawić w stolarni?
O 16. Drugi koniec kraju jest, nie?
I co, pękasz? Dasz radę.
A co, nie macie gdzie spać w tej stolarni?
W jakiej stolarni?
A skąd jesteś?
Księdzem jestem.
To ja przedstawię. Zaprowadzę do proboszcza, ucieszysz się.
Gołąb Wojciech.
Ksiądz Tomasz.
Myślę, kto mógłby mnie zastąpić.
No ale co, mszę i wszystko?
I nie tylko.
Widziałem tablicę ze zdjęciami.
Bóg tak chciał. Bóg chciał zabić 7 osób?
Słyszałem, że ksiądz wypytuje o tego kierowcę. Nawet rozumiem ciekawość, tylko śledztwo jest już zamknięte.
Mam prawo rozmawiać z wiernymi o czym tylko chcę.
Żadne seminarium nie przyjmiecie z wyrokiem.
Pani Lidia to co nieco mi już księdzu opowiadała.
Tak?
Po co wszystko rozpierdalasz, co?
Bo wiecie, w czym jesteśmy dobrzy? W skreślaniu. Wskazywaniu palcem. Wybaczyć to nie znaczy zapomnieć. Wybaczyć to kochać. Kochać kogoś pomimo jego winy. Jaka by nie była. Żeby proboszcz zwrócił, bo ja naprawdę...
Now that should have given you a good idea of one of the film's biggest assets, the extraordinary star-making performance of Bartosz Bielenia. He didn't spring out of nowhere. I checked his filmography and it turned out that I'd even seen a couple of his earlier films in which he played supporting roles, but nothing there gave any hint of the electrifying intensity that he brings to the part of Daniel, the young offender turned fake priest around whom Corpus Cristi revolves. And this charisma is something that's vital to the part, as he has to be able to convince people right from the start that he really is an actual priest, even when in the early stages he has no idea what to do. In fact, when he hears his first confession at very short notice, he's frantically trying to look up what he's supposed to say on his phone while the confession is underway. Now, the trailer said that the film was inspired by real events, and it does genuinely seem to be the case that every few months or so in Poland, a fake priest is unmasked, in some cases having kept up the pretense for an impressively long time, thanks to him being based out in the sticks where people keep themselves to themselves. The fact that one doesn't generally march up to a priest and demand to see his ID, and the fact that in some cases they don't merely make very convincing priests, but as far as their flock is concerned, they're arguably better than their predecessors. So while Kamasa keeps an undercurrent of suspense ticking over throughout, we know that Daniel's going to be unmasked at some point, just not when or how or by whom. The film is primarily about exactly what the role of a priest really is, and whether natural talent and charisma can legitimately trump formal training and certification, or indeed whether having a criminal background should absolutely bar anyone from attaining the priesthood, given that Christian religious texts otherwise seem very keen on the theme of salvation of sinners. It's an exceptionally rich, provocative and stimulating film that throws out a great deal of material to discuss, which is why Watermans has arranged to have an online discussion after their screening. Anyway, the film is showing at Watermans on the big screen on Tuesday 15th December at 7 p.m, and on the following day, Wednesday 16th December, I'll be hosting an online discussion at 8 p.m. See their website for details on how to book for both, and I hope to see you then.